Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to Health Lesson 134. Let's begin by singing our bone song. Ready? Try it with me. The skull and the scapula, the clavicle and ribs. Don't forget your sternum and your vertebrae, the pelvis and the femur and patella is the knee. The tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. Humerus, carpals, metacarpals, phalanges. One more time. The skull and the scapula, the clavicle and ribs. Don't forget your sternum and your vertebrae, the pelvis and the femur and patella is the knee. The tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. Humerus, carpals, metacarpals, phalanges. Boys and girls, not only do we want to know where the bones are on our body, but we also want to know where they are on paper. So let's go over a few things that we have not seen on this chart. We have here the skull. Remember, we're also calling it the cranium. We have our scapula, which we talked about here. We have our clavicle, which runs from our shoulder to our neck area here. Then we have our sternum in here, running up and down. We have our ribs here. We have our vertebrae. You can see it from the front and the back, but we always point to it through the back. We have our pelvis, which we also know is our hip bones. We have our femur, which is our leg bone in our thighs here. Our patella is our knee. We call it our kneecap as well. We haven't talked about this, but these are our tibia in the front and the fibula in the back. We did talk about the bones in our feet called the tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. We have the tarsals, which we consider our ankles. The metatarsals are the long bones in our feet, and the phalanges are our toes. Over here on our arms and hands, we have our humerus, we used to call our funny bone, our carpals in our wrists, the wrist bones. The metacarpals are in the fingers, and the phalanges are at the top of the fingers. A few of them that we haven't mentioned, between the humerus and the carpals, we have bones called our radius and ulna, and you'll see if there's two different ones, just like in our calf bones. There's one in the back and one in the front. Shin bone is the front, the back is the calf. The same thing here, the ulna would be in the front and the radius would be in the back. We have a tailbone, and some of you might be thinking that's pretty funny because we don't have tails as humans, but we do have a short little tailbone. We call that our coccyx. Now, boys and girls, I wanted to go over your worksheet that you had yesterday. This is on page 1 in your health materials. You should have colored this picture, but I wanted to go over and make sure you got all your right answers. Take a look at your hands, the bones in your hands. These here are called metacarpals. This bone here, we call this our funny bone. It is called our humerus. Boys and girls, did you get your clavicle? That's the long bone that goes from your shoulder to your neck here. And your facial bones are in your face. Your skull that we were talking about before, we call your cranium. The scapula is up here in your bones here. You have the sternum that is pointing right here in the middle of your body. Your ribs protect your organs. They're all these bones here. They're called your ribs. That's not on there. They're not asking for that. You have a scapula. You have phalanges. That's in your fingers. You have your carpals. Remember, the carpals are in your hands because you know how to drive you need to drive with your hands. Your vertebrae is part of your backbones. If I bring it up here, we have your femur, the big bone in the top of your thigh, in your thigh bone. You have your knee, we call your patella. We have your tarsals, that's in your ankles. Your metatarsals are the long bones in your feet, and your phalanges are the toes, just like your fingers. Okay, so that should be colored in correctly. You should have used this guide and it should look nice and pretty and colorful. On the back of that sheet, you had some questions about specific bones that are hard to find on the big pictures. In your hand would be your carpals, your metacarpals, and your phalanges. And they're asking what kind of joints are those. Remember, we talked about 3 different types of joints. We have hinge joints. Those are in your hand. They go back and forth. They open like a door, open and close. They have your clavicle, your scapula, and your humerus. And those bones go around in a circle motion. And we call those ball and socket joints. And your last joint in your head, where your skull and your vertebrae match, we call those pivot joints because they go back and forth, back to side to side, back and forth, side to side. Okay? At this time, I'd like you to go ahead and take your quiz. You can pause the video, and then you are going to move on to read pages, I believe, 15 to 17, all about your feet and how strong your feet are and how your feet are so important to you because they hold up your whole body. You don't ever want to wear shoes that are too tight, too small for you. You want to make sure that your feet are very well protected because they hold up your whole body. Very, very, very important to your body structure, your feet. So go ahead and read that after your quiz. And we will see you back tomorrow for lesson 135. Have a wonderful day.